is good, and we can begin. Welcome, everyone, to the Celebration of Life service for Grant Douglas Scott, who passed away on September 22nd, 2021. My name is Kathleen Rimple-Boschman. I'm a minister going back to Concordia Hospital, where Donna and I worked together for many years. And I had the privilege of officiating at her wedding some years ago. Um, at one point during the pandemic, indoor gatherings such as this were limited to 5 people. As a result, many people have delayed celebration of life services, weddings, parties, all other kinds of gatherings. Though it would have been good to gather shortly after his passing, that was not possible. And so here we are, 10 months later. This is a gathering of family and friends that is very worth waiting for, isn't it? It's so very nice to see so many of you here today. Relatives have flown in from considerable distances. So on behalf of Donna, her family, and Grant's family, I welcome you all here today and thank you for coming. Today we will laugh and we will cry as we remember and give thanks for the gift that Grant was to so many people. We were blessed to have known him as husband, son, brother, brother-in-law, uncle, and friend. Let us begin with prayer. Gracious and loving God, we are deeply saddened by our loss. Yet amidst our sadness, we have come to celebrate the life of one so special and dear to so many. 2,000 years ago, your son Jesus walked upon this earth. He knew that his passing would bring much sadness to his family and friends. And being your son, he knew much more than any of us can think or even imagine. He knew that his passing was not the end, but rather the gateway to eternal life. And so he told his friends just before he left, "Peace I leave with you, my peace I give you." And so as we celebrate the life of Grant Douglas Scott, we ask for peace in believing that he has transitioned from this temporary life to a new life. And we ask that you heal our grieving hearts through this time of sharing and giving thanks for all the goodness Grant brought into this life. That was a reflection of your love and goodness. We acknowledge your presence here, and we thank you for this opportunity to share and to celebrate. Bless Donna and all those who have lovingly worked hard to put this service together. Amen. So a number of family friends will now share their memories of Grant. And I want to thank you all in advance for your sharing, and the service will continue unannounced.
Good afternoon. Thank you for coming out today to honor my brother, Grant Douglas Scott. My name is Sandra Scott. I am the next in line of Grant's 2 older sisters. He was my little brother that for a good part of my life wanted so badly to be the big brother and champion to my mom, my older sister, and myself. As I was gathering my thoughts of what to talk about today, some themes reoccurred to me. Grant was animal-loving, capricious with food, stubborn, but in his mind, his stubbornness was well-meaning. More often than not, up for any diversion. He was also very protective of those close to him. In our younger years, we shared many misadventures, along with our imaginary friend we called Johnny. It was Johnny that convinced us to play and do what our grandmother said not to. And it was Johnny that convinced us to go and play in the Manitoba Gumbo. And when Grant got stuck, it was Johnny that told me, "Run for the hills, girl. There's no point staying here." And I left him there, stuck in the mud, in his rubber, with the mud up to the top of his rubber boots. If I had to say I learned anything from Grant growing up, it would be, if you take something apart, be sure you know how to put it back together. He was forever taking apart his mechanical trucks and cars and light fixtures, flashlights, anything he could fix. Lucky for us, he eventually grew out of this. Saturday mornings growing up, we had chores, and Grant's responsibility was his bedroom. Somehow, cleaning up to him meant rearranging furniture. So without any doubt, he would have the furniture rearranged every Saturday morning. Our Uncle Lou built from scrap metal a red go-kart for Grant. We were so excited. The problem became that there was just no hills for us to push this go-kart down, apart from the end of the driveway. So it became my sister and myself's chagrin that we were the ones that were pushing him where he wanted to go. And sometimes that meant all the way around Farwell Bay. Grant's gang of friends decided to build a fort and began collecting scrap wood to build it. They were doing a pretty good job at collecting all of this. I just remember coming home with my mother, and to her horror, they had built a shantytown fort on the front lawn. It took a few of the neighbors to help move it to the backyard where it stayed. Those that knew him would know how particular he was with food. When he was younger, there were only a few things that he would actually eat. On a trip to LA in his 20s, he discovered that Chinese food was actually good and decided to phone long distance to my mother and let her know just how good Chinese food was. Despite school not being much to his liking, Grant did well in his career. He had a good work ethic and was with the provincial government in the property registry tenant office for 41 years. When he retired, he had the title of senior paralegal. In the 90s, Grant came to visit me. We had a great time touring. He came to visit me in Italy, and we had a great time touring. He really loved the food, especially the gelato. There was a gelateria close to my house, and every day, without a miss, Grant would get a hit of gelato, but not just a little cup with 1 or 2 scoops, but a pint of gelato, as the Italians would say, a take-home container, and he would eat the whole thing himself. We went then on to Scotland, and one of the first stops was Kirkcaldy, where our maternal grandmother came, and he knew that St. Andrews, and being an avid golfer, he knew that St. Andrews was very close. And he said, "Well, we've got to go." And when he found out there was a golf museum there, I was like, "Oh my God." He said, no, we have to go. And he said, he could see I wasn't interested, but he said, he begged me, he said, "I'll make it up to you. Come on, we got to go to this golf museum." And yes, I know how the first golf balls were made, what putters looked like, and how present day golf balls are made. Anyway, when Grant married Donna, it brought another sister into the fold, kind and caring. She was a solid pillar for Grant through the last 18 months of his life. And I must thank you once again, Donna, for taking care of him. You did such a good job of taking care of him. Anyway, I have a poem to read, and it's called "Don't Cry for Me," which I'm doing, but anyway. Don't cry for me now, I have died. For I am still here, I'm by your side. My body's gone, but my soul is here. Please don't shed another tear. I'm still here, I'm all around, only my body lies in the ground. I am the snowflake that kisses your nose. I am the frost that touches your toes. I am the sun bringing the light. I am a star shining so bright. I am the rain refreshing the earth. I am the laughter, I am the mirth. I am the bird up in the sky. I am the cloud that's drifting by. I am the thoughts inside your head. While I'm still there, I can't be dead. And that's anonymous. Thank you.
Hello, I am Anne Barg. I am the oldest of the three Scott siblings, although I am a Barg now. Grant was also known by many as Grunt Grunt, Scoot, Great Scott, Uncle Grunt, Funkle Grant, and my mother's all time favorite, Ian. Ian, you say? It was your younger brother. When we think of Grant, there are many descriptive words that come to mind, and these are a couple of mine. Grant was playful. As an adult, Grant loved his toys that he had nieces and nephews to buy for. It helped a lot. Whether it was a rubber band airplane, a giant styrofoam glider, a water pressure rocket, and there are still a few of those rockets in our lake and in the bush that were never recovered. Grant always had something new to play with in the summertime. Oh, and did I mention water guns? They were always full, they were always ready for action, and many times they were strategically hidden. But really, who buys a 2-year-old a battery operated, Uzi style, rapid fire water gun? One that the said 2-year-old could barely hold up. Uncle Grant. And Grant did teach him how to operate that silly thing, which backfired. One very warm summer morning, as all the adults were enjoying the last of their morning coffee, as we sat in our screened-in dining tent, the said 2-year-old figured out how to pick up the water gun, although it was upside down, and squeeze the trigger. He held all those adults in the dining tent hostage. Grant loved it. He thought it was priceless. And the said 2-year-old, he was pretty darn proud of himself. Thank goodness that water gun did not hold a lot of water. Grant had the biggest heart, especially when it came to his time. Like many of you, my husband Carl and I were lucky enough to have Grant help us when we started our summer home at Louise Lake. Whether it was clearing the bush, hauling lumber, or swinging a hammer, Grant was always there, spending weekends helping us out. And when we built our main cabin, Grant took 2 full weeks of his holidays to help us. I will often wonder how many places and projects Grant has helped and left his mark on. Carl and I and our 3 children were also fortunate in that one summer when Grant was a bachelor, although there was somebody special in his life coming into his life at that time, offered to help take care of the kids at the lake for 3 or 4 days while Grandma and Grandpa went on a short trip. Despite a loose tooth coming out and being lodged in a whole apple that he had given to her as a snack, a severe thunderstorm that had many of the folks in the area very shaken, and a young one who was afraid that something might grab him from underneath when he had to use the outhouse. They all survived. Grant made things fun for the kids, and he would tell his adventure of this adventure, especially a trip to the Kenora Shoppers Mall many years after. They say actions speak louder than words. Grant's love for his family and his friends showed in all his actions. I have a poem that I'd like to share. He Is Gone by David Harkins. You can shed a tear that he is gone, or you can smile because he lived. You can close your eyes and pray that he will come back, or you can open your eyes and see all that he has left. Your heart can be empty because you cannot see him, or you can be full of love, of the love that you shared. You can turn your back on tomorrow and live yesterday, or you can be happy for tomorrow because of yesterday. You can remember him and only that he is gone, or you can cherish his memory and let it live on. You can cry, close your mind, be empty and turn your back, or you can do what he would have wanted. Smile, open your eyes, love, and go on. On behalf of our mother and our stepfather, Marion and Don Schultz, and the rest of our extended family, I'd like to thank you all for your support in this very most difficult time. And to Donna and your family, thank you. We can't thank you enough for everything you've done over the years. We love you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Terry Fike, and I was a longtime friend of Grant's. Firstly, I'd like to extend my family's condolences to Donna and her family, and to Grant's mom, Marion, and Don, and their families. Most of us here today, tough acts to follow, myself included, lost a good friend. Their loss is much more profound. I also want to thank Donna for allowing me to say a few words here this afternoon. I've always thought of Winnipeg as a big, small town. Here in Fort Garry, that is even more true. Grant and I grew up on Farwell Bay, just 2 blocks south of here. And that started a friendship that lasted well over 50 years. For anyone who grew up in Fort Garry and is between the ages of about 55 to 75, it seems as though everyone knows everyone else. It is, I would say, very unique. Grant did more than most, myself included, in keeping up to date with where people were and what they were doing. It showed his empathy and caring nature, which I saw for a very long time. I believe at times like this, it is best to remember the good times, and I hope I can share a few of those stories with you today. Growing up, we were all involved in playing sports, mostly hockey and baseball, but it was mainly curling and skiing that Grant was most passionate about. He curled at the Pembina Curling Club for quite some time in juniors, and for many years, his family had a ski retreat, the Caboose, at Mount Agassiz in McCurry. Grant was also passionate about the most frustrating sport ever invented, golf. I got interested in curling because of Grant and started playing juniors as well. Over time, many more of us also started curling, and eventually we formed a number of teams that curled in LaSalle. We were collectively referred to as the Julios, which was, as you can likely imagine, based on our limited etiquette for the game and our vast knowledge of the bar area. We used to say it didn't matter if you curled the early draw or the late draw, you wouldn't get home until 3 o'clock in the morning. Grant was also the one who got me interested in skiing. We had many great day trips to McCurry and La Riviere over the years. Somewhere along the way, a bunch of us started to go on an annual ski trip to Thunder Bay. These times were similar to our curling endeavors in that some of us didn't even take our skis out of the plastic bags the airline provided, but we sure knew our way around the ski chalet by the end of the trip. To be in our group, you needed to have a thick skin and possess the ability to be able to laugh at yourself. For a very long time, we had a special group of friends, but none of us would have survived without those 2 attributes. While we could be brutal to each other, every one of us would have walked through fire for the others. It is in that spirit I'd like to share one other memory. When it came to golf, there were no limits. Bad behavior, a complete lacking of golf etiquette, and the more fun and laughs you could have, the better. In the early 1980s, Grant, Ron Horch, Lawrence Enns, and myself drove to San Antonio, Texas to golf for a week. You could say the party began as soon as we crossed the border. Against our own beliefs, none of us were particularly good at the game. One day in Texas, Grant was having a pretty bad game and was not much in the mood for fun. On one hole, he was teeing up his drive, took his swing, and drove his ball right into his left shin. That prompted Ron Horch to remark that he may want to look into getting an inside left leg protector. It did not get better. A couple of holes later, Lawrence, Ron, and myself are standing about 15 yards behind Grant while he's setting up his tee shot. He takes a big swing. He's looking down the fairway, and the ball landed behind him, in front of us. I'm sure you can imagine our reaction. Right after that, while I was driving our golf cart that day, he was getting into our cart. I touched the gas. The cart jumped forward and he hit his head on the roof of the golf cart. He was fit to be tied, but it didn't last long. After he unwrapped his driver from around my neck, he was laughing as much as the rest of us. That was the Grant I grew up with, that I knew, and that I miss. Whether you knew him as Grant, Grunt, Scoot, Skoda, or Government Grant, take a moment to remember something special about him today. Goodbye, my friend.
Hello, my name's John Delaney. I'm not the imaginary Johnny that Sandy was speaking of. Although I tell you this, if I had known that story, I met Grant, we were in our late 20s, and occasionally we'd go out for a drink. It might lead to 2 or 3. If I had known that I could have gotten him to go and stand in a flooded gumbo field after 10 beer, I would have convinced him to do that. I would have loved to have done that. But I'm a friend of Grant's, and I've known him for over 30 years. I miss him. Right now, I miss him. But I was fortunate to have known him. I was lucky to have been able to and continue to be able to call him my friend and to have spent some time with him during our lives. He was somebody, I tell you, that to me stood out in the crowd. He was always fun to be around. And the reason for me, in retrospect, thinking back, is he had this laugh. He just had this incredible, easy ability to laugh. A lot of us don't. And it was, he had a serious side. He could get into arguments occasionally. He had an opinion. But he had this wonderful easygoing attitude and personality. And he would laugh at himself as much as anybody else. And he could take a ribbing. A lot of people can't take a ribbing. He could easily. We oftentimes would make fun of each other. And he was easily able to handle and manage taking a little bit of a joke poked at him. But when he laughed, Grant had this uninhibited laugh. He didn't chuckle. He didn't giggle. He didn't chortle. Grant had this unrestrained laugh, and he'd bend over. He's laughing so hard. And I remember one occasion that the laughter got better than him. I don't know. It's a golf story. Don't know if it's as good as Terry's, which were hilarious. But we were on the first tee at the golf course at Falcon Lake. And Grant, at that time, was proudly showing off his new set of golf clubs. and he bought a set of golf clubs, a set by Tommy Armour. And for those of you who don't know Tommy Armour, he was a professional golfer, and he hailed from Scotland. And he was very proud of these golf clubs. We're on the first tee. And I'm guessing, I never asked him, but I'm guessing that he paid a pretty penny for them. So I remember going over to his bag and taking out one of the irons and looking at it, and embossed on the head of the iron was the signature of Tommy Aaron. And I looked at it, and I looked at Grant, and I said, Grant, I think you've been taken. This doesn't say Tommy Aaron. This says Tammy Aaron. You've bought a set of ladies' golf clubs. And there was a moment, sometimes people don't know when I'm joking. There was this moment when he wasn't sure. And he was mortified that he had bought these clubs and he was showing them to everybody, and they were a set of ladies' clubs. And then it clicked, and he just burst out laughing. And it was that huge, unrestrained laugh. And I like to think back, I'd like to remember it as if the marshal had to tell him to, settle down, you're on the first tee, you're disturbing people, because he was laughing so hard. And that was Grant to me, just that huge, incredible laugh. I think he wore that joke for a long number of years. Every time we went golfing, I probably reminded him of it just as he was about to swing his clubs. But that really epitomized Grant for me. But Grant was the type of person that I wanted to know. He was the kind of person that I wanted to be around. And he made my life more enjoyable. And my life is poorer without him right now. I regret not having spent more time with him over the last few years. I met him early in my career. He was working out of the Woodsworth building, and I was working on the same block, and I got to know him through people who I was working with, and we soon developed a friendship, and I think it's because we had some similar interests and similar traits. We did have a similar sense of humor. We did like the occasional beer. And we did love golfing and going to the lake. And that's the other thing about Grant. The first thing I think I really learned about him is how he loved getting out of the city and going to the lake. And that love for the lake was what connected him to the love of his life, Donna. And Donna has a family cottage out there in Rush Bay. And I just remember end of the week, working week, he couldn't wait to get out to the lake. And I'm sure end of a Sunday, sun that was setting, he probably hated having to come back into the city. But if there is an afterlife, and if Grant's looking down at us right now, then there's one thing I know for sure, that he would not be pleased right now with a lengthy speech by me. He'd be restless right now, even though it's a Wednesday. Even though the weather isn't great outside, he'd be really restless to get out of the city and say he doesn't even want to listen to his own eulogy. He's got to get out on that road and get out to the lake. So Grant, my friend, I don't want to keep you from your appointed rounds out at the lake. I hope your spirit gets out of town and flies out to the lake with you and settles down at the cottage with you. And I hope you have an eternity of looking out over the lake, maybe with a cold beverage or two. So I know I'll be tipping a rum to Grant tonight, so rest in peace, my friend.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Karen Novak. I'm Grant's sister-in-law, Donna's sister, or Dee, as she's fondly known. So I will refer to her throughout my speech as Dee, just so as not to confuse anyone. And she's asked me to say a few words on behalf of the Butterworth side of the family. Wow, I need to take a breath. That's tough to follow, those eloquent and touching and very, very humorous words. So I'll do my best. As we've obviously heard from the heartfelt words shared here this afternoon, and in looking through the many, many photographs of Grant's adventures over the years, his was clearly a life well lived, a life filled with laughter and filled with love. Sadly, cut too short, of course, but full of childhood, cherished memories with his family, crazy antics, and lifelong camaraderie with his friends, and building a loving marriage with my sister Dee. So from the time Grant became a member of our family, he was a fixture at our cottage at Lake of the Woods, as John referred to, where he and Dee would spend summer weekends, vacations, and really any time they could at the cottage. So our family has so many favorite memories of Grant, certain ones that sort of keep repeating themselves. Him aggressively stoking the outdoor fire pit on a nightly basis, preparing very elaborate meals on the barbecue for us to enjoy, playing many rounds of golf at Falcon Lake with all the ensuing antics and trials and tribulations there, and really just, embracing his role as uncle-in-law to my children, Sarah and Drew, who also referred to him as Funkle, tirelessly taking them water skiing, wakeboarding, and for the occasional tubing mishap. We would spend many afternoons boating on the lake, going for nice long boat rides. Interesting memories of some of our rides where we ran out of gas and had to rely on kind passersby to help us out when Grant sheepishly, admitted that he had forgot to put the extra jerry can in the boat. Long, lazy, sunny afternoons on the dock at the lake, teaching the dog to jump in the water. And of course, nightly card games and Romoli games, not to mention lengthy cribbage matches with his brother-in-law, Jason, my husband, and these would often go into the wee hours of the night. So we've also heard that Grant likes to travel and take in the local sights and customs. So when he and Dee would visit us in Toronto, he very quickly found a favorite neighborhood restaurant and pub, and would often be found there, even without us. If we didn't know where Grant was, well, we knew where to find him. He claimed that they had gluten-free meals and beer, but I think he just loved to soak up the vibe on Bloor Street. And Grant would tirelessly accompany Dee on her many shopping and walking excursions while they were in Toronto, in particular in the downtown core. Not getting lost, but rather exploring interesting pockets of the city very intentionally. And Grant would enjoy some Toronto Maple Leafs and Blue Jays games with Jason when they had the opportunity. Although make no mistake, he was an avid Winnipeg Jets fan. But as an aside, even during his many months of treatment, the texts that we would receive from Dee and Grant during the less favorable Jets games were both comical and explicit. We got a good laugh out of those. And of course, Grant had a mischievous sense of humor. So one of the fondest memories for our family was when he orchestrated a grand plan to bring a large Christmas blow-up polar bear on the plane with them, set it up in our front yard to greet us when we came home from work in September, no less. Yes, what a sight. So Grant got laughs and laughs after watching us explain to our neighbors why the holidays had come early that year, and in listening to Sarah and Drew plead and plead for the large bear to stay up until Christmas. We ended up having to compromise and threw a huge black tablecloth and a witch's hat on Pole, as it came to be known, and kept it up through Halloween that year. And we're forever, I'm sure, known as the wacky neighbors on the street. In all seriousness, though, Grant was a great, immense help to our family and to my mom when my father passed away, with all things cottage related, mechanical related, and really just anything that needed to be done. He so valued family that way. His pride and his love of Dee and their dogs, Jessie and then Crosby, was so evident for all to see. He unfailingly supported Dee several years ago when she had her own health issues, and they were fortunate to come through that and come out even stronger. Dee reciprocated when Grant became ill, and we all hoped and had faith that the outcome would be positive again. Despite our best prayers, God had other plans, and Grant is now shining his love from above on us. No doubt with the help of his favorite balsam and cedar candles. These candles were very special to Grant, and Dee has provided a bit of a background little story in a frame on the memorial table in the lobby if you get a chance to look at that. But for those of you that believe in signs, I just want to share a little further to that story. This past fall, I was preparing to come to Winnipeg to celebrate Dee's birthday, and it was not long after Grant's passing. So I was in the store choosing a candle that I thought she might like. Now, I had no previous insight, really, or knowledge of what she might prefer, but I spent close to an hour looking and smelling and touching all of these candles. Well, I finally chose one, and when I got to the front of a very long line with my arms full of merchandise, I honestly had a very abrupt and strong thought that, no, I can't get this candle. This isn't right. Now, my mind said, you're crazy. The candle's fine. You're going on a plane. You know, you have to keep it small, and do you want to stand in a line for another half hour? But my body promptly marched me right out of line, back into the candle section, and very definitively had me picking this balsam and cedar candle. Much more large and heavy and a bit unwieldy, but it's what I chose. And I was, felt, yep, this is the one, and stood in line again, purchased the candle. So when I brought it and Dee finally opened her gift, her eyes filled with tears, and she had a shocked look on her face. And I thought, wow, I hit the jackpot. Did I ever do a great job in picking this candle? She was so touched that I had been able to find this candle that was so special to them, and little did I know of the significance that it had played in their relationship, and in particular, bringing comfort in Grant's, final months. So it was a very heartfelt moment, and we took that as a sign that Grant was certainly looking down from above on us, and probably guiding things as he wanted them to turn out in true Grant fashion. So I wanted to share that story with you. But Dee, Grant would be very proud, as we are, of your resilience and your strength in moving forward. And I expect that if there is a way for him to continue his mischievous pranks from up in the heavens, to let us know that his spirit and his light and his love is still with us, he will absolutely find a way to do that. And I think now we are going to see the slideshow portion of today's service depicting Grant's adventures over the years.
Just yesterday morning, they let me know you were gone. Suzanne, the plans they made put an end to you. I walked out this morning and I wrote down this song. I just can't remember who to send it to. I've seen fire and I've seen rain. I've seen sunny days that I thought would never end. I've seen lonely times when I could not find a friend. But I always thought that I'd see you again. Won't you look down upon me, Jesus? You gotta help me make a stand. just got to see me through another day. My body's aching and my time is at hand. I won't make it any other way. Whoa, I've seen fire and I've seen rain. Seen sunny days that I thought would never end. I've seen lonely times when I could not find a friend. But I always thought that I'd see you again. Been walking my mind to an easy time, my back turned towards the sun. Lord knows when the cold wind blows, it'll turn your head around. Well, there's hours of time on the telephone line to talk about things to come. Sweet dreams and flying machines in pieces on the ground. Whoa, I've seen fire and I've seen rain. I've seen sunny days that I thought would never end. I've seen lonely times when I could not find a friend. But I always thought that I'd see you, baby, one more time again now. Thought I'd see you one more time again. There's just a few things coming my way this time around now. Thought I'd see you fire and rain now.
Here's to the ones that we got. Cheers to the wish you were here, but you're not. 'Cause the drinks bring back all the memories of everything we've been through. Toast to the ones here today. Toast to the ones that we lost on the way. 'Cause the drinks bring back all the memories. And the memories bring back your. There's a time that I remember when I did not know no pain. When I believed in forever, everything would stay the same. Now my heart feel like December when somebody say your name. 'Cause I can't reach out to call you, but I know I will one day. Yeah. Everybody hurts sometimes, everybody hurts someday. Yeah, yeah. But everything gon' be alright. Gonna raise a glass and say, hey. Here's to the ones that we got. Cheers to the wish you were here, but you're not. 'Cause the drinks bring back all the memories of everything we've been through. Toast to the ones here today. Toast to the ones that we lost on the way. 'Cause the drinks bring back all the memories. And the memories bring back your. Memories bring back your. There's a time that I remember when I never felt so lost. And I felt all of the hatred was too powerful to stop. And my heart feel like an ember, and it's lighting up the dark. I'll carry these torches for you, and you know I'll never drop. Yeah. Everybody hurts sometimes, everybody hurts someday. Yeah, yeah. But everything gon' be alright. Gonna raise a glass and say, hey. Here's to the ones that we got. Cheers to the wish you were here, but you're not. 'Cause the drinks bring back all the memories of everything we've been through. Toast to the ones here today. Toast to the ones that we lost on the way. 'Cause the drinks bring back all the memories. And the memories bring back your. Memories bring back your. Memories bring back your. Yeah, yeah. autumn. Memories bring back your.
It's an honor for me to be part of this service today. Just really having everybody share. Thank you so much. I know it's not easy to get up and share at a time like this, but it really reminds us and helps us to remember what a zest Grant had for living, and he lived it fully. As I mentioned earlier, I had the honor of officiating at their wedding service, and it was beautiful. It was at the art gallery, and here we are. The service is once again beautiful. A wonderful tribute to the man Donna loved and was fortunate to share life with since 2004, married and known as a friend many years before that as well. Donna, we know that anything that you plan is beautiful, and this is no exception. I think if Grant was here, he would likely say, what's all this fuss about? But he would know that it is important to you to honor his memory in a good way, and he would be proud of you. We are sad and yet glad to be here. Remembering people in some way that reflects the best of who they were is important for us in life. Just as it's really important for us to say goodbye to people and I love you when they go on a trip, it's equally, if not more important, to come together and to remember people, to celebrate their lives and to say goodbye after they have passed. This is the way we form community together, and we build friendships that continue on past these days, and we build support for one another. These times are good for our spiritual and our mental health. Donna, being with Grant made life better for you. Grant was the person you spent many hours watching sports with, on TV or live. How lucky you were to share that interest together with your love. What a great way to have fun together after work or on a weekend. Grant was someone you were very proud of in terms of his expertise at work and his willingness to help out with friends and family when they needed his advice. And when it was your turn to be unwell, he was there for you. He was your rock. He was your comforter. He was your helper. He loved your family. He loved his family. And he was a wonderful, as we've heard, somewhat crazy, good uncle to your nieces and nephews. Not every couple shares a love for the same kind of music. You were fortunate in that you both enjoyed listening to some of the same artists. And some of the words you chose to describe Grant when I asked you to choose some words for me were he was loyal, a man of integrity, a principled person, humorous and fun, spontaneous, very giving of his time to others. He loved to take care of others. You respected and loved him. As parents, I cannot imagine a son or son-in-law you could be more proud of. Sadly, Grant's first father, Alexander Scott, has passed, as well as Donna's father, Don Butterworth. Grant and all of you were fortunate to have Don join the family. So all three parents and mother-in-law Evelyn had and have wonderful reasons to be proud of Grant. Firstly, Grant chose to marry an amazing person. This always warms a parent's heart. Like him, Donna is very loyal and works hard to be a good in-law. He excelled in his work. work for the government of Manitoba, working with the property division registry, Terranet, Canada's leader in the delivery and transformation of statutory registry services with extensive expertise in land and commercial registries. It always brings a parent a great deal of satisfaction and joy when we see our children choosing a career in a field they enjoy and then committing themselves to doing a great job. And as he stayed in Winnipeg, you were blessed to have enjoyed his love, his friendship, and his care for you from the time he was born to the time he passed away. The natural order of life is for parents to go before their children. And we are sorry that your son has predeceased you, and we offer you our thoughts and our prayers. To Grant's sisters and in-laws. And as we've heard, sisters will have memories that go way back to a time when their brother was young and very mischievous. And as you grow and change, you become friends and relate in different and special ways. And the bonds of family and marriage keep you together despite years and over the kilometers. Being family is a special relationship, and we think of you and pray for you as you mourn Grant's passing. And there are friends and neighbors here today, and I think anyone who lived next to Grant was a pretty lucky neighbor. A neighbor who stays outside on a cold winter's day to snowblow another neighbor's yard is a wonderful neighbor. Many of you are friends from work. You could count on Grant to pull his weight and then some at work. He was a great resource and to turn to, and he stayed in the field for many years. He developed a thorough knowledge of his subject matter. You've also lost someone, as you've mentioned, to play golf with, to go to Jets and Bombers games with. And I understand he enjoyed helping you out with special projects at your homes and your cottages. You've lost a good friend. If I can borrow an old expression, which we don't use too much anymore, Grant was a good citizen. In a country where we are blessed with many freedoms, we need to keep our country strong and free. And some of the best ways of doing so are to work hard, contribute to the workforce in positive ways that benefit others, to be a good family person, friend, and neighbor. Grant exemplified these traits, and I encourage all of us to live these values and to pass them on to the next generation. Through the obituary, we learned that Donna and Grant had similar tastes in music, and one artist they both really liked was Jackson Browne. Donna sent me the lyrics to a Jackson Browne song she has been listening to lately. It was a song that Grant really liked as well. It really speaks to her at this time, and the song is called For a Dancer, and it's written into your Celebration of Life cards. I'm going to read the lyrics. Keep a fire burning in your eye. Pay attention to the open sky. You never know what will be coming down. I don't remember losing track of you. You were always dancing in and out of view. I must have always thought you'd be around, always keeping things real by playing the clown. Now you're nowhere to be found. I don't know what happens when people die. Can't seem to grasp it as hard as I try. It's like a song playing right in my ear that I can't sing. I can't help listening. I can't help feeling stupid standing round crying as they ease you down. 'Cause I know that you'd rather we were dancing our sorrow away, right on dancing. No matter what fate chooses to play, there's nothing you can do about it anyway. Just do the steps that you've been shown by everyone you've ever known until the dance becomes your own. No matter how close to yours another steps have grown, in the end there's one dance you'll do alone. Keep a fire for the human race and let your prayers go drifting into space. You never know what will be coming down. Perhaps a better world is drawing near, and just as easily it could all disappear, along with whatever meaning you might have found. Don't let the uncertainty turn you around. The world keeps turning round and around. Go on and make a joyful sound. Into a dancer you have grown, from a seed somebody else has thrown. Go on ahead and throw some seeds of your own. And somewhere between the time you arrive and the time you go may lie a reason you were alive, but you'll never know. Jackson Browne wrote this song for a friend of his who passed away suddenly in a fire. It's a beautiful song that expresses the feeling we experience when someone passes away. And many of you have lost someone you love. If so, you may relate to these words. I must have always thought you'd be around, always keeping things real by playing the clown. Now you're nowhere to be found. Somehow I always thought you'd always be around. A woman in my church who'd been married for over 50 years once said to me after the passing of her husband that it felt like she had lost a limb. Jackson Browne's analogy of learning to dance after losing someone you love is a great analogy. At first, it seems impossible. How can you dance without a limb? And frankly, you don't feel like dancing. No matter how we prepare ourselves, there is an emptiness in life when someone we love passes away. Some time has passed, almost 10 months, since Grant left us. You're likely all still feeling somewhat fragile, wishing Grant could return to fill the void he left. Likely the initial sorrow has eased. I do hope so. You will find it odd that a minister would quote a phrase I once found on a slip of paper in a fortune cookie. But it was a very good fortune cookie. And I believe that the person who wrote the saying was a person of faith who found a very creative way of encouraging others to have faith. I tacked it on the bulletin board at work. It was there for almost 2 decades until I left work at Concordia this past February. I sometimes quoted it to staff or patients who knocked on my office door and needed a word of encouragement. It read, "Time, patience, and God are the best healers. Time, patience, and God are the best healers." Time is a gift from God, in that with time we are often able to do things like return to some of the activities we previously did, like work, without being overwhelmed. Patience is another gift from God. It is a gift we often have to pray for, though. God, please give me patience with someone who just said something insensitive. God, give me patience with myself as I thought I'd be further along by now. God, give me patience with myself as I don't like these feelings that seem to creep up on me. And God, forgive me, but sometimes it just doesn't feel like you exist. Please give me patience with you. It might help to know that all these thoughts are prayers. In the words of Jackson Browne, Keep a fire burning for the human race and let your prayers go drifting into space. You never know what will be coming down. Sometimes the things that are coming down are like seeds that grow within us. If we let it, grief can open the door to self-compassion, which is the knowledge that there is a time in life to step back, do less, and honor someone's passing by mourning. Grief can open the door to compassion for others. Through our own experience of grief, we learn how to comfort other people. We are living in a world that is short on compassion and self-compassion. Though learning these things can be hard, these are gifts our world needs. Imagine a world where we are all a little less angry and a little more compassionate for one another and for ourselves. That would be a wonderful world. In the Christian faith, we respect our feelings, but we also know that our feelings do not always point to reality. When we feel that God is absent, it doesn't mean he does not exist. God created our emotions and does not stand back and watch us without care and compassion. Rather, sometimes God cries with us and feels every aspect of grief right alongside us. He created us body, mind, and spirit. He did not create us to pass away into nothingness. In an amazing mystery that the creator of this vast universe is also the creator of every human soul, past, present, and future. We are too dear to him to let our souls pass away into nothing. This is a promise we find in the Bible, and it is for everyone that faith in him, however small, is enough to return us to our Creator after we've passed from this life. Donna and family members, your dear Grant passed away with Jesus at his side. He brought him to the Holy Father, who is a God of mercy and compassion. And though it is hard to learn to dance without Grant in your lives, he is watching over you with love and compassion. Through patience and time, you will experience healing for your grieving hearts. Slowly but surely, God will show you how to dance again, and you will find that life still holds meaning and purpose. And then one day, our turn will come, and the words of Jackson Browne will come true. Into a dancer you have grown from a seed somebody else has thrown. Go on ahead and throw some seeds of your own, and somewhere between the time you arrive and the time you go may lie a reason you were alive. I'll ask Donna to come and share some memories at this time.
Good afternoon. Before I begin, I would like to thank everyone here today, all those joining virtually, and those generously sharing memories and celebrating and honoring Grant's life. I would also like to thank all of my family, Grant's family, our neighbors, the Wileys, friends and colleagues for their loving support, and all the medical teams at St. Boniface Hospital and Health Science Center who provided such amazing care. A special thank you to Grant's friends, John Delaney and Jeff Gray, for all of their time and assistance in helping me manage cottage affairs since Grant fell ill. Many thanks to Aaron Boskill from Thompson for his patience, guidance, and support in planning the service. We had many calls. As well, it is so very special to share this day with our efficient Kathleen and she also led our wedding ceremony. So I feel truly blessed, and my heart is full right now. Well, I have to say today's weather is certainly not what I had hoped for. I was checking the weather for the last week, and it looked like it was supposed to be possibly a nice sunny day. However, I know that Grant would actually not be disappointed, as he so loved the thunder and lightning storms. I'd like to think that this is his way of letting us all know that he is here with us today. Grant was beloved by many, as you have already heard, and most certainly as my husband. No doubt he was handsome, charming, kind, and so very funny. We shared so many of the same interests: love of animals, love of nature and the cottage, love of sports, love of cooking, love of music. For the many, many things that we had in common, we were also very different in our personalities. They say opposites attract, and for Grant and I, that was true. Grant was charismatic, I was more reserved. Grant was spontaneous, I was quite intentional. He was the free spirit, I was the traditionalist. He was the risk taker, I was the risk assessor. He was the just get it done guy, and I was the planner and analyzer. He was the spender, and I was the saver. Grant challenged the status quo, and I didn't like rocking the boat. But over the many years of push and pull, we became better listeners, acquired an appreciation for the other's point of view, though we often still did not agree, and slowly acquired some of the other's tendencies. There was a song in the pre-service playlist that Grant and I both loved by Don Henley called Taking You Home. There's two specific lyrics that really resonate strongly about our life together. The first one is, "Oh, and in this love, I found strength never knew I had." And the other one is, "And this love is like nothing I have ever known." On a lighter note, here are a few things that you may not have known about Grant. He had a tremendous sweet tooth, and much to his frustration, I did not bake as much as he would have liked. Thank goodness for his mom, Marion, and my mom, Evelyn. I've tried to honor his love of the sweet by incorporating some favorite baked goods, chocolates, and of course, Pepsi. Had to be Pepsi at the reception today. He also had quite a mischievous nature, as already been discussed, and that became very evident to me early on in our relationship. And one memory I will never forget was the first formal dinner with his extended family. A couple of hours before we were to arrive, Grant proceeded to tell me with a completely straight face that some of his family were nudists. And because no one knew when they would show up clothed or not, that I should just be prepared for anything. I thought, like, what a rascal. He also loved to surprise me, whether it was last-minute tickets to a sold-out concert, managing to get that impossible-to-find Christmas gift delivered in time, or preparing a romantic candlelit meal when I came home from work. And on that note, some sort of a fun fact. Did you know that he also set a very beautiful dining room table? So any of the dinners that we had at our house, at our dining room table, he was the one that set the entire table. Tablecloth, napkins, china, silver, all of it. Grant also sparked my interest in and passion, and now actually borderline obsession with flower gardening. He was always chirping about what he considered to be an excessive purchase at the nurseries, but would always compliment me on how nice the deck or yard looked, and he was always up for creating another space to plant flowers. I will forever be grateful for his unwavering love and support during my own cancer journey several years ago. As it turned out, I was able to give back to him during his difficult journey. He was a man of principle. He was devoted, loyal, very proud, and generous. And he was determined and fearless in his final battle. During those many months, life slowed down for us. We learned to embrace whatever the moment was willing to give us, whether that was a short walk around the block, snuggling up with blankets in front of the TV with his favorite candle, or having long, honest conversations. I am so very grateful for those moments and our 28 years together. Just so you know, Grant did make a couple requests with the content of this service. The first one was actually the song Talking to My Angel that was played at the start of the service. And he specifically wanted the photo of him and Anne and Sandra to be up when that song was playing. And the second request was he wanted a slideshow of photos, with photos of just him and I over the years, to one of his favorite songs, Someone Like You. Putting this together was quite bittersweet, but it brought back so many wonderful memories that I will forever cherish. Grant, I will always love you. We're ready for the slideshow.
I've been searching a long time. Someone exactly like you. I've been traveling all around the world, waiting for you to come through. Someone like you make it all worthwhile. Someone like you keep me satisfied. Someone exactly like you. I've been traveling a hard road, they've been looking for someone exactly like you. I've been carrying my heavy load, waiting for the light to come shining through. Someone like you make it all worthwhile. Someone like you make me satisfied. Someone exactly like you. I've been doing some soul searching, find out where you were at. I've been up and down the highway, in all kinds of foreign lands. Someone like you make it all worthwhile. Someone like you keep me satisfied. Someone exactly like you. I've been all around the world, marching to the beat of a different drum. But just lately I have realized, maybe the best is yet to come. Someone like you make it all worthwhile. Someone like you
never satisfied. Someone exactly like you. Someone exactly like you. Someone exactly like you.
On behalf of Donna and the family, I want to extend to everyone a very warm welcome to stay and enjoy the refreshments in the reception area. Donna and family members will be scattered throughout the reception area. Please feel free to enjoy the refreshments and to share your words of love and encouragement informally in this area. There will not be a formal receiving line. Before we leave, I would like to say a prayer of blessing for the ashes, as well as a closing prayer. Let us pray. Seeing that the earthly life of Grant Douglas Scott has come to an end, we commit his ashes to God in heaven, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Earth to earth, ashes to ashes, and dust to dust. Confidence of the resurrection to eternal life in Jesus Christ our Lord. May the blessing and the peace of Lord God Almighty rest upon you now and forever. Amen. And this prayer is for you. Our Lord and our God, you are never far from us, and you are most near when we deeply feel our need for you. Confirm in our hearts your promise that death, instead of ending life, is the beginning of a larger and more abundant life for Grant with you. Reveal yourself to us as the God who watches over all our ways and turns even death and sorrow into blessing. Give the family the strength and comfort they need in the weeks, months, and years ahead. We pray these things in the precious name of Jesus, who conquered death by rising to new life and invites us all to believe in him and receive his salvation. Amen. The final words of closing come not from another fortune cookie, but from Winnie the Pooh. Both Donna and I share a fondness for Winnie the Pooh's wisdom, and so I want to share you some wisdom that we both felt would be a good way of ending the service. If ever there is a tomorrow when we're not together, there is something you must always remember. You're braver than you believe, stronger than you seem, and smarter than you think. But the most important thing is, even if we are apart, I'll always be with you. Thank you. Let the family rise in the
Shadows are falling and I'm running out of breath. Keep me in your heart for a while. If I leave you, it doesn't mean I loved you any less.